Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very senior corporate leader and author from Tampa, Florida, USA, Shellye Archambeau. Shellye, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Ash. I've been looking forward to participating.
Thank you. Shellye is a Fortune 500 board member. She's the former CEO of MetricStream, an advisor and an author. All of you know I'm very partial to authors. So she's got a book titled Unapologetically Ambitious: Take Risks, Break Barriers, and Create Success on Your Own Terms. And given the amount of amazing work she's done over her career, understandably, she's been recognized, awarded, and felicitated several times. Shellye, we're going to speak about your book today. But before we get to your book, tell me about your own journey.
Well, Ash, it's interesting. I almost have to give you a little bit of background so you understand kind of how I ended up where I did. So I'm the eldest of four children. My parents were absolutely crazy. They had four kids in less than 5 years.
Wow.
I know. Can you even imagine? Like, oh. And so as a result, we grew up, very close, but they're also definitely competitive. And my father didn't have a college degree. We moved around all over the place. I mean, I lived in 7 states before I got to high school because every time he could, he took an opportunity to better his position and support his family. But as a result, we moved to a lot of places because they were very focused on education, where I was like the only little black girl in my class, sometimes in the grade, and once even in the entire school. So what that meant, because this was the 60s and 70s, pardon me, I have allergies today. What that meant is I wasn't always treated that well. Because that was a time of a lot of racial strife. There's many people who felt there should be equal opportunity, yet just as many that didn't.
Yep.
So being one of the few, I was bullied and beat up by classmates. I mean, it was just not good. So what I learned early in life was that the odds weren't in my favor. And I also learned, because my parents were very supportive of us, but at the same time realists. So when I come home and say, Mom, this happened, that happened, I'm so sorry. So when I came home and said, Mom, this happened or that happened, that it's not fair, she said, Shellye, life's not fair. And as a kid, you're kind of conditioned life's fair. You get a turn, I get a turn, right? You get a light pop, I get a light pop. So that was tough. But then the other was, she said, Shellye, you can't control what people say to you. And they said some bad things.
Yeah.
And you can't control what they do to you. And they did some bad things. But you can control how you respond. So don't let them win. What you meant by let them win is don't let them impact how you feel about yourself or what you want to do. Because if you do, then they win. And it was like, oh. So I tell you that because here I am. Odds are not in my favor, so I've got to figure out how I improve my odds, which made me a very intentional person. And it made me a very strategic person in terms of, all right, how do I get what I want? What do I need to do? Second, the whole do not let them win was I wasn't going to let a lot of feedback stop me from my goals, right? And what I wanted to do. So flash forward, I had a very fateful conversation in high school where my guidance counselor said, typical conversation junior year in high school in the US, said, what do you plan to go to college? And my answer was yes, because my family, we're going to college. Second, so what do you want to do after college? And Ash, I had no idea.
Absolutely.
But what I did know was that I wanted to be able to keep my thermostat at 72 degrees. I wanted to be able to eat out in restaurants, and I wanted to be able to travel. So I wanted to make enough money to do those things because I couldn't do them. And when I told her that, she kind of laughed. And then she realized I was dead serious. So she said, well, what do you like to do? And for this, I give her a ton of credit. And I said, oh, that's easy. I like clubs. You know, in school we had clubs. You had French Club, American Field Service, you had the National Honor Society, Key Club, right? I was in all of these things and I liked leading them. I was also a Girl Scout, but I said, don't tell anybody because it wasn't cool. And she said, well, you know, clubs are like business. You pull people together and you get things done. And I was like, ah, brilliant. I'm going to go into business because I love clubs. And since I like leading clubs, I'm going to go lead a business. When I looked up, those people were called CEOs. So I said, I'm going to be a CEO. Came home and told my parents, I'm going to be a CEO. Now, honestly, I had no idea what it actually meant.
Right.
But now I had a goal. And so I spent my entire career, joined IBM, Cat Wharton, started out in sales because I'd done my research and every single CEO at IBM started out in sales. So I didn't know why, but I figured that had to be the path to power. Spent 14 years at IBM, moving up the ranks, got to the point where my boss reported to CEO Lou Gerster. There wasn't anybody above me who looked like me. And I was doing really well, but I didn't think that IBM was truly going to give me the opportunity to meet for CEO. So I worked my way to Silicon Valley. I was the chief marketing officer and EVP of sales of a couple of public companies, and then got my opportunity to become CEO of MetricStream. And it was a very broken company at the time, but hey, this was my CEO shot. After worked with MetricStream for over 14 years, built it into a global market leader, and now I serve on corporate boards and advise companies. I'm an author. I'm unapologetically ambitious, and I spend my time trying to impact and influence people to help them achieve their aspirations.
What an incredible story. And I just love the two pieces of advice your mother gave you. And such a powerful advice, don't let them win. I think that all my viewers and listeners should remember that all their lives. Thank you, Shellye, for sharing this. So now let's talk a little bit about your book, and I'm going to repeat it: Unapologetically Ambitious. Take risks, break barriers, and create success on your own terms. And before I ask you a question, I'm going to ask all our viewers and listeners to go and check out Shellye Archambeau's book. And I'm going to get a copy for myself as well.
Thank you.
My first question for you is, what was the inspiration and the hypothesis to write your book?
So, you know, throughout my career, Ash, I did a lot of things. I mean, I was in tech where I was very visible. There weren't many people who looked like me doing what I was doing. And so folks would reach out to me. Oh, Shellye, can we meet for coffee? Can I pick your brain? Can we have lunch? I just want to hear, right? And I tried to meet with people, talk with people. But as I took on more and more responsibility, the incoming requests increased and my time available decreased. And it was very frustrating to me because I wanted to share, right? I wanted to be helpful, but time-wise, it was very difficult. So I said, you know what? When I pass the CEO baton, I'm going to write it down. I'm going to write down, in essence, what made Shellye Shellye. Write down what I learned, what worked, what didn't. And I wanted to be able to share, not just do this, because there are a lot of books like that, but I wanted to be able to share the backstory of the why. Because that's what I always missed in a lot of books, was the why. And I wanted to talk about the fact that life is hard. You know, Ash, life is hard, but people don't actually tell us that life is hard, right? They really don't. And so what happens is it gets hard for us and we think, oh gosh, I'm just not cut out for fill in the blank, right? Because this is hard for me and I look around, it's not hard for anybody else. So obviously it's me. And that's not true. It's hard for everybody. Correct. So I wanted to just share, hey, it's hard. Yes, I did all these things. Was it easy? No. But if I can do it, you can do it. I'm not that special. So that was why I wanted to write down the book. I just wanted to be able to share with more people. I wanted to be, frankly, more open and candid than I think many people are. You know, most books about business and growth, they go like this. Oh, I started here. I had read through a little hurdle, got through the hurdle, and bing, it all worked, right? Which is why we think life is easy. And it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah. No, you're so right. People don't realize that for every new promotion that you get, there's a hell of a lot of work that goes behind it. And there's a lot of work that's behind the scenes.
Yeah. What I like to say is every time you take a step to the next role, you fall to the bottom of the learning curve on the ladder. Absolutely. And you have to crawl right back up again. And as soon as you do well, you feel, oh, I know what I'm doing. Bam! bam, you're back to the bottom again.
Very
And
well.
so is that fun? The answer is no,
Correct.
right? But it is part of the growth. And if you understand that, then you don't feel as incompetent sometimes.
Well said. Well said. Shellye, you also emphasize the concept of planning your career like a business. Can you help us understand this approach and give me an example if you can?
Sure. So, when you're in a business, right, and you're starting one, building one, et cetera, it's important to actually have a vision for what you're trying to do, right? So what's the objective here? And once you set your vision for what you're trying to do, then you say, okay, if this is what I'm trying to do, then you got to figure out the how you're going to get it done. And with the how, you come up with kind of the strategy, you set goals, right? You then put plans in place to execute, then make sure you've actually got the resources to go and execute. And then you get help, right? You hire people, you contractors, support, advisors, right? You do all that. But in our lives, we tend to be a lot less strategic. And frankly, life is life. The job is just a piece of life. So if we can take that approach and put it to life, I think we can have a better outcome, right? So, an example, whenever, and I'll take a piece of it, but whenever I set a goal, like here I was. I'm now high school, I want to be a CEO. Okay. So then I asked myself, all right, I want to be a CEO. I got to figure out where, what. I picked technology because technology is growing. And I heard somewhere along the way that if you pick an industry that's growing, they have companies that are growing, and companies that are growing never have enough resources. So if you're good at what you do, you can move forward faster. And I was like, done. So I picked technology. All right. So then I did the work to say, okay, so now what has to be true for me to become a CEO of technology business? I didn't know. So I had to do the research. Well, first it's like, well, if I'm going to do this, I want to pick a great company. And this is the early 80s. So I pick IBM because they're a leader in the space. So I said, okay, I'll pick IBM. And that's when I started to do the research. Who are these people? Right? Decided, oh, I need credibility, because when you look at CEOs, they've all got either MBAs or graduate degrees, a lot of them. A lot of them have to move around and travel. A lot of them that's okay, got it. So I said, I'm going to go to Wharton because it's a top school. I needed credibility. It's the only school I applied to. Went to Wharton and then came out and started out in sales. I mean, so every step was, well, I would ask myself, what do I need to do? What has to be true for me to do it? And then how do I make that happen? Now, I just gave you a career example. Can I give you a personal example?
Please.
Because I apply the same thing on the personal life. So when I'm setting this goal, all right, that I want to be a CEO, et cetera, well, I had some other goals. I also wanted to be married if I could. I wanted to have children if I could. And when I thought about it, I wanted to be able to have children early in life. My parents were young parents, and I thought I'd like to be young when mine are young. And also, if I have them younger, then later on in my career, I can take more risk because they'll be off and educated and whatever. And so now I can take more risks. So I said, okay, so, well, you can't just make that happen, right? But you can do things to manifest your objectives, right? And so what I did was I said, all right, I would like to get married in my early 20s. That's what I said. I would like to get married in my early 20s. So everything I did, I assumed that was going to happen. I just assumed it was going to happen. So I started working and saving up money for a wedding because my parents said, we can help you with college. We couldn't pay all of it, but they could help you. But then you were in charge of the wedding. So, all right. So if I wanted to get married early, I had to have money to get married early. So in college, I worked part-time, 24 hours a week. During the week, I catered on weekends. I was doing all kinds of scrappy stuff. Pardon me. And you know what? I'll just stick with the wedding. There were a lot of other things I did too, but I got married 2 months after I graduated from college, and I paid for my wedding myself.
Wow. Wow. Both the examples that you've given me just demonstrate an old saying that, once you've made up your mind to do something, it's almost as if the universe conspires to help you. And you're a living example of that. Thank you, Shellye.
Yeah, I believe you can manifest if you truly are. So here's the key, Ash. A lot of people will set a goal.
Yeah.
Some people will take the time to say, okay, well, if I want to do this, what are my steps? But very few people make decisions every day. And I mean every day, because your life, all your life is a series of decisions. People don't necessarily realize that either. So what happens is very few people make decisions every single day consistent with that plan, right? They've got the goal, they've got the plan, but they're doing this or they're doing that or they're doing, and so then it didn't happen.
Correct.
Anyway.
Correct. Well said. Well said. My next question is, and a few minutes back, you spoke about the 60s and the 70s, and you spoke about IBM and that, you were the senior most person in a black woman in IBM. I'd love to get your perspective, Shellye, on how has the corporate landscape changed for women since it started?
Yeah. Very, very much so.
Yeah.
I mean, when I started out my career in the early 80s, I started out in sales. I get to an IBM office. There's only, in fact, I think I may have been, I don't want to misspeak here. Maybe there was one other person of color in sales. I mean, it was, so forget, I'm not even talking leadership, management, right? I'm just talking this carrying a bag. So today, when I look at the landscape, I am super encouraged. Super encouraged. I mean, yes, I think the landscape has changed a lot, so that our numbers have improved, right, et cetera. Now, are things perfect? No. But you know what? Unfortunately, they're never going to be perfect. Things are so much better. And do we still have work to do and a place to go? The answer is absolutely.
Of course.
But we're on a very good trajectory.
Well said. And, from a US perspective, you and I are both what I call people of color. But the point is, I've argued this many times, that white is also a color. But that's another discussion some other time with you. But coming back to your book, Shellye, it's often said that it is necessary to network and build influential connections. I'd love to get your thoughts on how can young individuals aspiring for leadership roles like what you reached build networks and build connections?
Yeah. So first of all, let me define my view of a network, Ash, because some people think network is how many contacts I have in my phone, right? I have a big network. To me, a true network, right? So I'm calling it a core network, and then you have the extended, but a core network are the number of people that will do something for you when it's not convenient, right? That's the real test. And so to build a real network, you have to invest in it. It's not just, oh, we met, shook hands, whatever, or we were on a Zoom together and et cetera. No, it's really about real relationships. And relationships take investment. So it's interesting. One of the things, and I honestly fell into it because of all the things I just described, moving around a lot, being kind of the outsider. I had to figure out how to get to know people and how to enable people to get to know me, because a lot of times they had misconceptions, right? And things and biases and stuff about me. So one of the things that I learned early was if I helped people, it gave them a chance to get to know me. It did it in a positive way, because when you help someone, most people appreciate it. And then if it could be the beginning of a kernel. So I learned early to be helpful. I'd volunteer, I'd see somebody doing something and I'd go over and see if I could be helpful, right? In school, I was pretty good at math when I was young. And so I could work through my problems really quick and then help others, right? Do what they were doing. Well, I took that same thing and brought it into business, right? And just said, okay, how can I be helpful? Because if I can be helpful, I can create a relationship that's meaningful. So that's honestly how I've built my network. But what my advice to people is, as you're building your network and you're building relationships, make sure that you are making strong relationships with a lot of people who don't look like you. And I don't care what your background is. And the reason I say that is for the same reason that diversity and things that are tough, we tend to be comfortable with people who are like us.
Yeah.
And so we build relationships with people who are like us, which is good. I mean, I'm not saying that's bad, but it would be so much stronger, so much more impactful, and you would frankly learn so much more if you also built relationships with people who are not like you.
Great response. So I have time for two more questions. You also speak about advocating for oneself in the workplace. And I remember when I was 23, 24 years old, I had a boss who was from the US in India. And he told me that, if you don't blow your own trumpet, nobody else will. And I wrote to him many years ago. I said, I'll figure out the sequel to that after a few years, which was that don't blow it so hard that it hurts people's ears. So I want to ask you, what are some of the strategies you recommend to advocate for oneself in the workplace?
Yes. Can I just share a quick story about how I learned the lesson like you did? So the way I learned the lesson is I was probably, I don't know, 2 years, 3 years into my job at IBM. And there was this project and it sounded really exciting. I was really hoping that I would be picked to lead this project. I mean, it was right up my alley. I worked hard and I'm doing all this stuff and I'm thinking, okay, great. I'm getting good feedback. So I'm pretty sure I should be picked. I should be picked. And I wasn't picked. And I was really very disappointed. And so my boss noticed, I guess, that I seemed off or something. And was like, hey, Shellye, what's wrong? And I said, well, honestly, this project, I thought I'd get picked to lead this project. And so I was disappointed that I didn't get picked. Why didn't I get picked? And he looked at me and said, Shellye, I had no idea you wanted to do this. And I went, oh, I guess people can't read my mind. So yes. I learned that it's important to, number one, let people know what you want to do. But two, in order to then be selected, just because you want to do it doesn't mean you're going to get selected, right? You have to let people know what you actually do. And that was another lesson, but I won't take time to share that one. So the combination, I was fortunate. I learned early, right? The better thing I learned early, back to don't trumpet so loud, is I remember I joined IBM and this time I was working part-time because I was still finishing up my degree, working part-time. And someone asked me, so Shellye, I was in Wharton and whole bit, so what do you want to do? I said, oh, I want to be CEO. Okay. They were like, my, aren't you ambitious? I thought, maybe I shouldn't share that high, right? We should share a couple steps ahead and then make people more comfortable. So yes, I learned that whole, balance in terms of how much you say and what you say, but I didn't stop talking about what my goals were and where I wanted to go. I just shortened.
Amazing. Thank you. And my last question to you, and this is for the thousands of people who will listen to our conversation. What are some lessons from your book you want readers to take away?
Oh, goodness. The first one is you own your career, not your job, not your boss, not HR, not your mentor, your parents. You own your career. So be intentional about it. Ash, people spend more time planning a vacation than they do their career, right? I mean, they'll spend like $4,000 on a airline ticket. They got these great plans. They tell their friends they're going on vacation, put the dog in the kennel, head to the airport, strap in the seatbelt, get on the plane. And then you would never look at the pilot and say, so where are we going anyway? Right? You would never invest all that time and energy and let the pilot take you wherever they want to take you. But we do that with our career every day. So number one, you own your career, be intentional about it. Two, take help. Take help. No one does anything of significance all by themselves. No one. And if they tell you they did, they're lying. Nobody does. So you're not going to be the first person on the planet to do it.
Correct.
Take help. Another would be you can create goals, right? And create plans, but things happen, right? You can't predict everything. That doesn't throw away your goals. It just means to change the plan. Just figure out a different way to get there.
Correct.
Right? You would never plan to go to the grocery store, get in your car, start driving, come across a detour sign, and then stop. Just sit there and wait till it got moved so you could go the path that you planned. No, but people do that with their careers. They'll plan and else something will happen and they'll just wait. No, figure out a different path, a different way, right, of getting it done. So those are
amazing. And on that note, Shellye, and your 3 amazing lessons, you own your career, take help, and things happen or life happens. Make sure you are able to control what you're doing. Thank you so much for speaking to me about your own incredible journey. I just loved, as I said earlier, your mother's advice to you. Thank you for speaking to me about your book, Unapologetically Ambitious. We covered some very interesting points, and you gave us some very interesting anecdotes, stories to remember what you have been through. Thank you again for speaking to me, and all the very best to you.
Oh, thank you so much, Ash. And by the way, people can find me on Shellye.com, SHELLYE.com. And I have an Ignite Ambition focus to be able to share this kind of thing with other people because I want more people to be able to achieve their aspirations. So feel free to participate.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.